Dr. Ann Treasure has been a high school friend, college friend, and what Mr. Vielle terms a friend for life. Dr. Treasure and Mr. Vielle has shared many interesting conversations and debates about St. Croix. Dr. Treasure is an OBGYN and has had the opportunity to serve her community in the hospital of her choice, the Wang Louis Hospital. She had the opportunity to work anywhere on the mainland, but she chose to come home to where her heart is, to our precious St. Croix. When Dr. Treasure returned home and saw the state-of-the-art facility here at the Wang Louis Hospital, she knew she had made the correct decision to come home. I am humbled to introduce Dr. Treasure, who I call the daughter of the soil.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It was a couple of months ago at my schoolmate, also Wanda, his lovely wife, at her home that they were having a food sale. And Kurt said, you know, I'm having my announcement, will you? Yes. I was so happy that Kurt had finally decided to put his hat in the ring, and I was so ready for Kurt. I'm going to say some things today. A lot of you know where I stand on certain issues, so these are my views, and not necessarily those of the candidate, but there are some things that I want you to know from where I come and how I feel about things, so that even though we may not agree on everything, that we agree that Kurt is the person to put into the Senate. Fellow Virgin Islanders, and Crucians in particular, it is such a critical time here in this Virgin Islands. This is the absolute worst economic and social climate that I've ever experienced. Under the US flag, half of our children here in St. Croix are living in poverty. Some of their parents are working full-time and still struggling to make ends meet. And some parents are desperately looking for work. Our schools are falling apart because some are either too old or the administration has not been maintaining them properly, or simply because the schools don't have the modern infrastructure needed for today's education. This is a time when the feds want no child to be left behind. But on St. Croix, we have our children in double session. Our roads are crumbling. Potholes the size of craters are damaging our cars and threatening our very lives. But this administration still spends road money, you know what I'm talking about, in ways other than which they were intended. This government gives road money to the highest bidder, not the lowest bidder, in a time of we should have economic austerity. And it's against the law. Our largest private employer, and I'm very sad about this, announced that they were going to stop refining operations. But now they're operating a standalone storage facility, and this was only a privilege to operate a storage facility in exchange for clean refining and for providing us with jobs and economic activity. The recent fourth agreement is beginning to sound like a scam because it takes away all incentive for Hovensa to sell and to sell quickly. The current administration and some senators actually gave Hovensa a reward for closing, a $7 million reward for sending people home. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a catastrophic recession in St. Croix, but we're watching to see if one of the 5 anxious buyers that we were promised is going to ever step up to the plate. The latest word is, oh, wait till December, which conveniently is after the election. How many times are we going to let the same people fool us? Okay? How many times are we going to see decisions made that are written on a napkin and not put into the contract? Ladies and gentlemen, if you elect Kurt Vielle, I am going to assure you that it has to be in the contract. We have a lot of teachers here. Some of them are my classmates. And they're officially in the Virgin Islands in short supply. and in very high demand. That should translate to excellent salaries that are comparable to anything in the nation. So why do we have such a shameful starting salary? Why were the teachers included in the 8% cut? After they were promised a lovely retro and a fat raise, they instead got an 8% cut. Ladies and gentlemen, society is measured by the way we treat our children as determined by the way we treat our teachers. Are you ready for a senator who values teachers? Are you ready for a senator who's a teacher himself and understands the value of education? Our administration and certain senators cut the budget of our only hospital from $33 million in 2008 to $17 million today. But this is the same hospital that's expected to provide premium care at the national standards. Is the hospital supposed to turn away those who cannot pay? Can we get blood out of stone? Are you ready for a senator who will make quality local health care a priority? Cleveland Clinic should only be a choice. It should not be our only option. Cleveland Clinic, God bless them, is there when we need it, but they don't have ambulances that leave St. Croix. We have to make sure that the only catchment hospital on St. Croix is ready to take care of us. And so for that, we have to be ready for VLA. The job market is horrible, partly because businesses can't pay their electric bills and still pay their employees. It doesn't help that we, the citizens, have less money to spend in these businesses because we ourselves have been struggling, being strangled, in fact, and dying from the cost of electricity. But we have to sit and watch our government sink deeper and deeper into debt. This year, we have a $40 million budget deficit. This fiscal year, our government employee retirement system was $1 billion in debt in 2008 and is almost up $2 billion in debt today. They're predicting that there will be no pension fund left in 10 years. Are you ready for somebody who's not afraid to make painful decisions? And not just for those pensions that come from GRS, but for those pensions for the executive branch of government. Amen. Half of our rum monies go directly to the rum companies because of some lopsided deals that past legislatures approved. And the US Senate just blocked the cover overextender, which means that we'll have to pay back the $70 million in advance fees that we got in time for the election. So what that means is next year will be $140 million in the red if the extender is not passed. We see large companies with tax breaks. They don't always keep up to their end of their agreement. In exchange for the tax breaks, they're supposed to support schools and hospitals. Where's the enforcement? Have you gotten any money from the EDC companies? We see an administration that hides the people's financial information from the Senate with the Senate's permission. The last legislature passed a law blocking themselves from seeing the government's accounts. I am so ready for a senator who will demand to see the accounts, the people's money, the people's business. We see widespread hiring of supporters and people who fry chicken. We know how it works here. Their children have big salaries, assistant to the advisor and advisor to the assistant. But young Virgin Islanders like the VLA's beautiful children who are going to be college graduates can't even get an interview. And they're being forced, like a brain drain, to move stateside. We cannot afford to lose our tax base, the rest of our middle class. But people want to know that they can have a fair chance. So how is it that 30-something people can apply for a directorship position and a senator walks into that job? Are you ready for a senator who's not afraid to reject cronyism and to pass laws to make sure that our children, the people who have not the connections, but the qualifications, We see senators that rubber stamp legislation that's bad for the Virgin Islands. Senators who are too timid, who are paid off because of family benefits, too afraid when necessary because of conflict of interest inherent within our Organic Act to appoint a special prosecutor or a special investigator or to subpoena financial information from the Public Finance Authority. Remember, these are my views, you know. But are you ready for someone who wants to do things differently? We define in medicine, the definition of madness is to keep doing the same thing and expect a different response. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for someone who's willing to do something different? I met Kurt Vialet and his brother when I was a teenager some 30 years ago. He was quiet, thoughtful, and I had an idea that he would rise to great things. And later, in 1982, when we became freshmen at the College of the Virgin Islands, also with his wife Wanda, I saw him grow and develop and blossom into a really, not just a good friend, but really an incredible worker, an incredible member of our community. And I saw what interests me most in a senator, somebody who is absolutely dedicated to the love of community over the love of self. And then this young guy, a newbie, someone saw in him the incredible potential and did something not ever considered. They made him the principal of a brand new school. I'm sure many people were jealous. This young educator given a new and a modern facility to teach our children. But we saw the fruits of thinking outside of the box, of doing things a different way, not just putting some old fogey who's retiring. Someone who's looking at their watch till the pension. Somebody thought differently and said, I'm going to pick somebody who's young and has energy and will know every student by name and know where they live. And we all watched him turn the complex into an incredible institution. And then in 2010, after an election, our beloved principal and friend was transferred, and the timing was at least suspicious. And the people that transferred him have come to admit what we already know. The building didn't make the school. Mr. Vialet made the school. Together with his staff and the solid leadership, Kurt Vialet created that beacon and the example for schools everywhere. And we see already the incredible transformation in the junior high school that he leads today. Fellow residents, Arthur Richards Junior High School was ready for Kurt. They were ready for a principal that personally seeks each child out and knows their schedule and asks them, why are you on the corner? What do you want to be when you grow up? This is he knows everyone. Thank you, Ms. Graham. Are you ready for a principal that is not above or beneath teaching a math class, even though that he's not required to do it because they don't have a math teacher and he realized how important math is to your education? Are you willing? Are you ready for someone who's willing to go the extra mile and not to have it be for money? Are you ready for somebody who spends his Christmas break getting children ready for a parade to celebrate ourselves and our culture? The academic community was ready for Vialet's insistence on order and decorum, even to the way the children are dressed, because we know that when we dress pretty, we act pretty. Mr. Vialet knows that. A school with Vialet at the helm where children knew that they were nurtured and valued and colleagues were cherished, and that the children spoke decisively. They wanted Mr. Vialet back. And you know what we say in the Caribbean, school children say, is the ultimate wisdom. An educational department where the powers that be eventually were begging for the same Kurt VLA to come back because the void that he left spoke to the administrative skills and his willingness to give his all. The same administration has now recognized that Kurt VLA is somebody whose commitment was so important to the development of institutions. Are you ready to zoom out? Are you ready to send him to a higher place, the legislature of the Virgin Islands? Are you ready for Kurt? As the first step, Kurt is a Virgin Islander that will never put his personal needs above that of any other Virgin Islander. He's a native son that will represent the best interests of St. Croix all the time. Sorry, Neville. For all the people who live here, for all the people who came here, and for all the people who want to come back here. Are we ready for Kurt? Yes. Is St. Croix ready for a UVI graduate? Yes. An educator who will make sure that education lifts the Virgin Islands and St. Croix out of crime and poverty and prepares this generation to be part of the new global economy. Yes. You ready for Kurt? Yes. Are you ready for a man who cannot be bought? He cannot be bribed. Yes. He cannot be shamed. He cannot be bamboozled. To sit in our Senate at this juncture in history to make decisions that affect our lives, I put my personal reputation on the line when I tell you that I'm ready for Kurt VLA. Are you ready for a leader who has energy, who will fight tirelessly, who will not sell out the Virgin Islands in general and never, never, never sell out St. Croix in particular? Mr. VLA is very much a stickler for rules. We want to make sure our elections are fair and transparent because that's where it all begins. Are you ready for a leader who will follow the law? Yes. Are you ready for a senator who will bring all the administrative experience that he had, both in his education, to come and work for us in a different venue? Yes. Are you ready for the principal who was the pride of every parent and the hope of every voter and the ambition of every one of his friends? Who are you ready for? Yay! Are you ready for a breed of senator, a new breed that will make hard decisions, but will make honest ones? Yes. Who are you ready for today? Yay! I've been waiting for years to see this magic. I want to see him bring to the VI what he brought to the complex and what he's bringing to Arthur Richards. Are you ready for a public official who will use his intelligence, his experience, his education, and for God's sakes, his conscience to help St. Croix live up to what could be an awesome potential? Are you ready for Kurt? Yes. I've known Kurt VLA for years. He's a friend. I admire him. I respect him, and most of all, I trust him. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, ready for Kurt.